Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing something a little different. We're going to dive into just one single historical document, just one newspaper article from 1948. Why? Because it gives us this incredible, raw, unfiltered snapshot of a really critical moment in history.
All right, let's jump right in with a number, 900,000. Now, this isn't just a random figure. It's from a New York Times article published way back on May 16, 1948. So, what does it actually represent? Well, that question, that's really the heart of our story today.
So this was the headline, no mincing words here. And that number, 900,000? According to this article, that's how many people were in mortal peril. I mean, that's a shocking claim, right? So what we're going to do is unpack what this one single source was reporting at that exact moment in time.
Okay, so let's get into the details. The article makes it really clear that this wasn't something that just popped up out of nowhere. No. It was reporting on what was basically the culmination of months and months of escalating tension.
And you can see how the article frames its entire report within this really critical 4-month window. You got a warning issued to the UN back in January. Then, by May, that's when our article was published, the situation was supposedly at a boiling point. But get this, a formal review by the UN, that was still 2 months away, in July, so you can feel the urgency.
So, according to this report, the end of the British Mandate, that period of British control over Palestine, was expected to have some pretty severe repercussions for Jewish populations all across the region. And the article uses this term fifth columnist. That is a really powerful phrase. It basically means an enemy within, a traitor. And that's the atmosphere, the feeling this article was trying to capture.
Okay, so where did this warning even come from? Well, the article traces its origins, showing it didn't just appear out of thin air. It was directly linked to statements made on, the world's biggest political stage at the time, the United Nations. The Times reported that these statements were made during the UN General Assembly session back in the fall of 1947. This was right before the big vote on the partition plan for Palestine, and the article really presents this as the direct catalyst, the thing that kicked off all the formal warnings that came later.
And this brings us to the core of the article's evidence. See, the reporter isn't just relying on rumors or hearsay. No, they're citing a formal memorandum. It's a really detailed official document that was submitted to the UN, outlining the specific threat.
Now, this memorandum, it went beyond just a general warning of, potential violence. The article points out that it cited a specific legal draft. And this draft was reportedly prepared by the Arab League's political committee. So we're talking about something very concrete here.
So the threat being reported here wasn't just about the risk of mob violence. It was described as a systematic plan. As you can see, there were 3 alleged steps. Step 1, reclassify the legal status of Jewish citizens. Step 2, freeze their bank accounts to fund resistance efforts. And finally, Step 3, intern anyone believed to be an active Zionist and confiscate their property. It's quite a detailed plan.
Okay, so after outlining this proposed law, the article then shifts gears. It starts giving specific examples of persecution that its sources were claiming was already happening on the ground right then in several different countries. Take Syria, for instance. The report claimed that for Jewish residents, freedom of movement had been, and I quote, practically abolished. It also talked about Jewish government employees being dismissed from their jobs. All of this points to what was being described as a state-led policy of discrimination.
Then you've got Iraq. The article cited a totally different kind of restriction there. This one was financial. You had to deposit £5,000 just to be allowed to leave the country. And you have to remember that was an absolutely enormous sum of money in 1948. It was basically a way of trapping the population. And on top of that, the Times also noted that foreign Jews weren't even allowed to pass through the country. And this detail from Lebanon shows yet another angle. We're talking about reports of forced financial contributions to fight the UN resolution and also public incitement. The article even mentions the press accusing Jews of poisoning wells. I mean, that's a classic, ugly anti-Semitic trope. It really highlights how tensions were apparently being stirred up in public. But what's really crucial here is the scale of all this. The article isn't just focusing on the immediate neighbors of what used to be the British Mandate in Palestine. Not at all. It's painting a picture of anxiety that stretches across this vast geographic area, all the way from Casablanca in North Africa to Karachi in South Asia. It's a huge region.
So all of this brings us to the article's conclusion. How did it sum everything up on that very specific day, May 16, 1948? Well, it really captured a moment of intense uncertainty and fear. And it did this by relaying the perspective of the Jewish spokesman that it quoted.
And this is where the article reports a really fascinating shift in perspective. See, before this, the danger was always linked to the possibility of a Jewish state. But now, with the state of Israel having been declared just 2 days earlier, the threat was being framed as an immediate, full-blown, urgent crisis.
And this was the definitive conclusion that the article presented. The call wasn't for protection within their home countries anymore. No. According to the Times, the view coming from Jewish spokesmen at the UN was that the only option left on the table was a mass, rapid transfer to the new Jewish state.
So you have to ask, how does digging into a source like this actually deepen our understanding? Look, it doesn't give us the entire story, of course not. But what it does give us is something maybe even more valuable, a raw, unfiltered snapshot of one urgent perspective, right in the middle of a chaotic moment. We get to see the specific fears, the specific proposed threats, exactly as they were being reported on one single day. And I think that's a powerful reminder that history isn't just a collection of dry facts, right? It's a story that's constantly being shaped by what people at the time believed, what they feared, and what they thought was about to happen next.